start this week, and before we talk about how we have actual mics, I think we should have a word from our sponsor, WeWork. WeWork, the one sponsor where we actually pay them to be in this office.
It's very true.
I do not understand
and
sponsorship.
Rent the space and everything.
I'm failing at sponsorship.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. You could sponsor me, or I can sponsor you, and you pay me, which you do.
I already do
so,
pay you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, we're back with another week of That's Healthy, Right? Where we make sense of the news so you don't have to. Pretty interesting week as far as headlines are concerned. I don't know if it was the post St. Patty's Day hangover, but there was some very interesting stuff out there. And
yeah, did you see that one thing about Trump? Just kidding.
Yes. Politics. But, okay, this week we've got a fat loss breathalyzer. Not sure what our world's coming to.
I don't even know what that means.
We're going to dive into that.
Okay.
We are going to dive into Terry Crews, who happens to be one of my idols, primarily because he's just jacked. And
he's got some muscle. He's got some muscle in his body.
He came out with his diet and what makes him so successful, which is basically intermittent fasting.
One of our favorite topics on the show.
Yes, and want to dive into that in regards to something he specifically that he said, and also celebrity diets in general. And you want to keep your diet simple, but will eating the same thing every day be beneficial for fat loss?
Ooh.
Okay, and we also have a viewer question coming in.
I always love those.
Yes, and it's going to be in regards to sweeteners. Okay, and your take on those. So jumping right in, the fat loss breathalyzer.
Okay, tell me about this.
So a company out of Seattle called Level has pretty much taken things to the next level. They have developed a machine that you can breathe into that will measure fat loss. Okay.
How's it doing that?
So apparently it will measure the amount of acetone in an exhaled breath, which indicates fat burned. And then their app will convert it into a quantifiable number, which will basically pop up on your cell phone. And they claim that trainers will be able, and they do also claim that basically anybody will be able to make adjustments, but ideally a trainer will look at it, can then make adjustments to somebody's program in regards to their training and nutrition plans. So it's no longer just looking at the scale, you're gonna be able to breathe into this apparatus that is gonna be able to produce results.
Okay.
Is this something that you're about to go buy, or is this the new shake weight?
Well,
which I love the shake weight. I shouldn't have used that in that context.
Who doesn't love the shake weight? I mean, that we can all make fun of it, but it was undeniably a success.
The greatest thing ever.
And if this were Shark Tank, one of my favorite shows,
yes,
or if it were Gladiator, great movie, and we were going thumbs up, thumbs down.
I see where you're going with that. Okay.
I think it'd be like this.
Interesting.
I think it'd be like this.
Why is that?
I don't see the value or utility of most trainers being able to look at how much fat you are burning within a workout and making adjustments that will not absolutely drive someone crazy. Not to mention, if the people who created this device understood how fat loss works, they would understand that fat loss is not acute. And by what I mean by that, it's like, we've talked about this in the show, fat loss does not occur within one workout.
Right.
It does not occur within one meal. It does not even occur within a day or a week. So trying to get people to stress about like how I'm gonna get myself to burn more fat within one workout, I think is majoring in the minor.
Yeah.
It is, and it's how practical is it? What, you're gonna be doing your work and you're gonna blow on this thing? You're like, well, you're not blowing hard enough. And how many trainers are going to misuse this device being like, because like it's arbitrary. Right. How much fat are you supposed to be, burning within a workout? Because as we know from the standpoint, with weight training specifically, part of the benefit of weight training is that while you don't burn a ton of calories, say during the workout, you do have something called EPOC, which is going to be, the amount of, we can get all sciencey, but it's the amount of calories that you burn after your workout as a byproduct of working hard, which is actually much greater than what you might be burning during the workout. So if you're stressing so much how much you're burning during the workout, when the overall benefit of weight training is how it has metabolic benefits for up to 48 hours. You're losing the forest from the trees, and then people might start pushing clients harder and harder and harder to hit an arbitrary number.
Right.
Are you going to get injured? Are you going to get sick? Are you going to lead to breakdown? We know what works from a fat loss standpoint in terms of workouts. We know what works in terms of diet. Stick to those and don't be married to a number. Not to mention, what if the technology breaks or there's a flaw in the machine? You're relying on something that's a little more arbitrary. I mean, cool device in theory.
Right.
I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think there's just so many
I'm not investing.
Right.
I'm not investing.
Yeah, there's too many external factors that go into it, right? Like somebody could hit this number. It reminds me a lot of the Orange Theory fitness philosophy.
Right.
Where you're in that fat burning zone. However, that sounds good theoretically, and I love their workouts. I have nothing wrong with their program itself, but the idea of you're going to be in that fat burning zone, but there's so many external factors as far as what you're eating after, how much exercise are you walking to work, there's so many things that play into fat loss in general, that it's very, very difficult. There's a lot more that needs to be developed into that.
You want to lose fat, focus on the habits.
Right.
Focus on like doing what you know you need to do repeatedly, so that like if you have a bad day, it's not really a bad day because you're so consistent, as opposed to just like obsessing over a single number.
Yeah.
Sorry. Of course, about like 2 years from now,
it's
like,
remember that time on the market?
Yeah. The breathalyzer came out? You totally blew it. You could have gotten early.
Yeah. In that case, I would invest.
Right. Hedge our bets.
I'm going to be on the opposite side of the fence.
Right.
I purely do not agree or understand.
But just so you have the opportunity to tell me that you were right and I was wrong.
Yeah. Just on that purpose alone. But a nice little segue going into the next one. We talk about consistency. Terry Crews. Okay. You may have seen him on the Old Spice commercials, several movies. He's been in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
You're like his publicist.
I am. Well, so I've actually had a chance to see him work out in the gym before.
Right.
And I can attest, he does work out every day at like 5 or 6 a.m. Was given that opportunity, and he is an absolute freak in the gym. Very much reminds me of kind of what you'd expect out of Dwayne Johnson or anybody else that just gets after it. He came out, and this was actually interesting. It was on Business Insider. Okay. And he came out talking about intermittent fasting and how that is driving his physique success over the last 5 years. He's been doing intermittent fasting for a while.
Okay.
His whole concept is he works out very early, but he doesn't eat until 2 p.m. every day. Okay. In general, I want to preface this all by saying celebrity diets are the fad. They're very, very eye-catching. You see these people on TV. They may have great physiques, but it really comes down to what they're doing on an individual basis, because it obviously sells, but the concept itself, sometimes they're very good, sometimes they're very bad, but just because somebody's doing it that you admire may or may not work for you.
Right.
So when I was watching this thing on Terry Crews, and instantly I'm like, oh, I want to watch this. Like, he has that body that I want, so on and so forth. What is he doing and how can I get there? One part that he said though was that he will work out in the morning, doesn't eat until 2 p.m., and he remains in a 16-hour fast because his last meal is at 10 p.m. at night.
Right.
But after his workout, he will consume coffee, tea.
Oh, and me.
What?
Go.
Yep. Okay. Branched chain amino acids, and or he will even take a spoonful of coconut oil just to help with satiety.
Okay.
Now, you're kind of the intermittent fasting expert. I know you have a background in it, and at least an understanding.
Right.
And from what I understand, will those break your fast? Will you remain in a fast if you have coconut oil or you have BCAAs, coffee, tea, any of those? Will that actually disrupt your fast? I'm not saying it doesn't work, because clearly it works for him.
Right.
But by definition, does that break your fast?
What I really found interesting there was that he said he started it like 5 years ago, and that's when our book came out.
It's true.
Terry Crews, are you reading Engineering the Alpha?
Just saying, that'd be kind of cool.
I wouldn't mind. So this is a question we get a lot about, what breaks the fast? Because a lot of people are like, hey, same thing. When I did intermittent fasting, it was almost identical to what he did. My last meal would be 10 p.m. the night before. I wouldn't eat until 2 p.m. the next day.
Right.
I would work out in the morning, and but we get a lot of people being like, hey, I had like a protein shake and banana, but then I broke my fast at like 2. And I'm like, No, you broke your fast with the protein shake and the banana.
Right.
And coconut oil, coconut butter. That we have discussed it on the show before. Big topic in and of itself. It's fine to take if you want it, but like any other healthy oil or fat, it's really calorically dense. A spoon of coconut oil is probably going to be in 100 to 180 calories, 16 grams of fat.
Yeah.
That's definitely taking you out of the fasting zone. And BCAAs, depending, so the amino acids, branched chain amino acids, depending on how many you take, may or may not take you out of that fasting area, because while a lot of BCAA products do not put the caloric information, BCAAs it's a protein. So for every gram of BCAAs you have 4 calories, which isn't much. But if you take 10 grams, that's 40 calories. If you take 15 grams, that's 60 calories. I'm just trying to prove that I know math.
Yeah.
And at some point, you will, but when you take in enough calories, you will take yourself out of that fasting state. Now, in general, someone who really brought intermittent fasting into the forefront, Martin Bergen, who has the site Lean Gains, he was the one who advocated that the BCAAs, the 10 grams prior to a workout, 10 grams after, if you're not going to eat till later in the day. And Martin just had such tremendous success with his clients that it's really hard to dispute the benefits or the approach. So I wouldn't be against those branched chain amino acids. We've talked about in the past that if you get enough protein in your diet, you do not need BCAAs. But if you are doing intermittent fasting, you're not eating before or after, and then you are having a shrunk window when you're eating during the day, you might not be getting enough protein in your diet. So having those BCAAs before or after isn't a bad idea, especially if you're not going to eat, especially if you don't want to be so ravenous, because sometimes BCAAs show some evidence of being able to help suppress hunger. So it's more about understanding that if you're throwing the coconut butter or coconut oil in your coffee, you're taking yourself out of the fasting benefits. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. If that's what works for you and you feel great, awesome. But just understand that action in and of itself can take you out of the fasting zone, break that fast, and cut off, say, some of those overall regenerative health benefits that we talk about. If you haven't seen the show before, the big benefit with intermittent fasting is more behavioral. It shrinks the window by which you have time to eat, and because you are not eating, it really highlights it. It kicks in autophagy, which is cellular cleansing, cellular repair, which is good. It helps with aging, it helps fight disease. So it's not bad per se to have that coconut oil, coconut butter in there, but it is going to probably most likely end your fast effectively.
Which I think is an important just kind of differentiator in the fact that there are benefits to intermittent fasting outside of reducing your eating window and the calories consumed throughout the day.
Right.
That if you're doing it for those benefits, you are basically losing that by consuming the food.
Right. And in general, I think the big thing with intermittent fasting is, one, behaviorally, it makes it harder to overeat. It's
Right.
a lot harder to eat a ton of food in an 8-hour window versus, say, a 12 or 16-hour window.
Correct.
And in general, that helps a lot of people with fat loss. It might not be ideal for muscle gain, which we've been very open and honest, especially as more research comes out in terms of the rate at which protein breaks down, how much protein you need to take in per day
Right.
in order to maximize muscle protein synthesis and minimize muscle protein breakdown, the two aspects that help you gain muscle. So it's a tool that you use from a dietary standpoint. Very helpful and effective for many from fat loss. Maybe not the ideal point for muscle gain. Maybe most beneficial from a cellular level for overall health.
Interesting. Okay. Well, Terry, go ahead and let us know if you were a big fan of Engineering the Alpha.
We're big fans of you, regardless.
Yes. It's a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, next. Article out of Women's Health. Okay, this was in regards to, the headline read, "Can eating the same meals every day help you lose weight?"
Okay.
Okay, they claim it might be boring, but will it work?
Okay.
Okay. They and their expert advice recommend against eating the same thing every day.
Oh.
Okay.
Why?
One, because of something they call palate fatigue,
Okay.
which was basically their definition of, you're gonna eat the same thing every day, you're gonna get sick of it, ultimately lead to binges of some sort or cravings of other types of food. Okay, but more importantly was that you don't end up getting a variety of micronutrients in your diet. And I know that I've been guilty of this approach because of all the things I'm trying to do in the day, the last thing I really want to focus on is all this variety and meal planning and going to the store and buying 30 different ingredients. And it's a lot easier to just kind of put together the same thing every day, eat the same thing at the same times. But my question is, do you advise against that? And is it something that ultimately will slow your fat loss by eating the same thing every day?
Again, you almost have to separate those into two questions. Will eating the same thing every day slow your fat loss? No. I mean, you cannot say that because if we're actually assuming that someone eats the same thing every day and they keep eating the same thing every day and they're eating the right things,
right,
you'll lose weight. Now, if you're eating the same things every day and you do suffer from palate fatigue and that causes you to binge, is it really palate fatigue, or is it really the fact that like you've created such a bland diet or such a restrictive diet that you feel that you need to eat something else?
Right.
So again, with conversations like this, it's hard to pinpoint what is causing the break in your approach. It's why we talk about having more of a balanced approach where you can eat some of the food that you love. You don't create restriction. You do make sure that when you create a plate, if you're making yourself food, you have those micronutrients in there. If someone's eating a side salad every single meal and then has a balance of proteins and fats, I have a hard time believing that they're going to be micronutrient deficient. But if you're going ahead and only eating protein and will never touch a green, and then you don't supplement with a multivitamin or a greens powder, yeah, you're probably going to be deficient. I mean, the hardest thing with diet is just being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a bad job? Is this something I feel that I could follow for 3 to 6 months or 3 to 6 years? It's really the better way to look at it. Which is why when we rephrase it as a 3 to 6 year thing, it's like, wow, I have no dessert for the next 3 to 6 years. That just sounds awful.
Yeah.
Which is like, well, let's plug dessert in so that like suddenly it doesn't create these these frustrations and these likelihood of breakdown. It's why a lot of dietitians now or nutritionists will talk about almost that like 80% rule. That if and again it gets back to what we were talking about with fat loss or even muscle gain, that like it doesn't occur in a vacuum. It's not one workout, it's not one meal. So if you are on point 80% of the time, and that gives you 20% of the time to eat what you want, you're probably gonna get really, really good results until you get like hyper lean, or until you're getting to the max capacity of how much muscle you can put on your body. That's when you have to get a little bit more extreme, if you will. If you are sub 10%, being 80%, sub 10% body fat, being 80% with your diet isn't gonna do it. It just won't, because then you're getting those finer little details. If you were maxed out and you were just jacked out of your mind, you're gonna have to go to some of those extreme behaviors. But for most people, being 80 to 90% accurate with your diet and having 10 to 20% of leeway is gonna get you incredible results. What people don't realize is how easy it is to screw up that last 20%. Spencer Nadolski, who is the doc who lifts, threw up Spencer's a great guy, and he's also jacked out of his mind, but he put up this great meme that was showing people are wondering how easy it is to screw up their diet, and he showed Monday through Friday these images of meal plan, and it was all chicken and veggies, and then he showed Saturday someone eating a whole pizza, and Sunday I can't even remember what it was, but Monday through Friday everyone was eating 2,000 calories, which was their baseline, and Saturday and Sunday they took in 4,000 calories each day. So that was so much more that suddenly either you hit maintenance so you wouldn't lose weight, or maybe you're even eating more than you thought. So a cheat day, a cheat meal, small splurge is not a problem. But if you think 20% is eating whatever the hell you want 2 days out of the week, it's not. And that's even simple math. I mean, if you've got 7 days a week, 5 out of 7 is not 80%. Again, showing off my math skills. So that's not a problem. And also, and to go further, some people worry about food allergies, and we just posted an article this week on Born Fitness about will eating the same food every day create a food allergy or food intolerance, and we talked with a bunch of scientists and researchers, and we also found that it will not. So I think a lot of people worry that eating the same things will either cause them to not be able to lose weight or cause them to become intolerant of a food, and neither is the case. But if that repetitive nature, either because you're choosing the wrong foods or because the foods you're choosing are ones you don't like, causes you to then stray from your diet, then it could be a problem. So it's more behavioral than set in stone.
Right. And I think that's the interesting part too, is a lot of those philosophies when it comes to, even when we reference carb cycling or those cheat meal, cheat days, a lot of those account for the fact that you're going to be doing that.
Right.
And you have you're basing it on your average for the week or a bigger picture as opposed to one day. That's why we always talk about one meal will not affect your progress. But if that one meal is unaccounted for and you're throughout the week shooting for one goal and you totally overshoot it, now you've completely adjusted your average intake.
Right, if you hide one meal every single day per week, that's 7 hidden meals, and if say you eat 3 meals per day, or let's say and you snuck in a 4th meal, so that's 28 total meals and 7 of those are like hidden, it's going to be damaged. So I mean, there's a lot more flexibility and freedom than people think they have. They just have to be open and honest, and like oftentimes the answers are there. We just have to be willing to ask the right questions.
Got it. All right, viewer question.
Yes.
This one's coming in from Kyle Longest, which I will tell you, I'm pretty sure he's a Notre Dame fan.
All right.
His image on YouTube was the play like a champion today.
Mm-hmm. Are they still
like
in the tourney?
Rudy thing? What?
Are they still in the tourney?
I have no clue.
Stat boy?
Stat boy?
You're worthless. Why are we all so bad at sports now?
Okay. The only thing I followed with the tourney is, what's his name? Lorenzo Ball's dad. Shooting his shots fired at LeBron.
Don't. I think his name is Lonzo Ball, just to fact check.
I'm a big college basketball guy, but anyways,
Colorado's not in the tournament, so I mean,
that's all that matters.
Florida still is though, so I mean, my grad school, go Gators,
go Buffaloes,
go Buffs all the way.
Okay, so he wants to know. First, he apologized if we've already kind of covered this.
No need to apologize.
He hasn't quite gotten to all the episodes.
Okay.
But I assume that
means he's a viewer.
Yeah.
A viewer.
Yeah, he actually says thanks for the series. It's truly valuable.
It's not just me, you, and Jordan.
Why? But I question his loyalty because he hasn't added me on Facebook, Instagram, and or Twitter. But he is wondering about your take on sweeteners. That is sugar versus natural sweeteners, maple syrup, honey versus stevia, etc. Where do you stand in regards to this? I'm assuming that means kind of adding it to drinks or whatever, but your stance on sweeteners.
I am not anti-artificial sweetener because there's none in there. This is just black.
You're fasting.
No, I already ate today.
Okay.
I ate breakfast with the intern every day. I ate breakfast with Bodie every morning now. Intermittent fasting was a thing of the past for me. It just doesn't work for my schedule. A lot of people are against artificial sweeteners, and if you are, that's great. I just don't see a reason from a practical standpoint to remove them, and this might change. There's a lot of research being done on the microbiome, which is your gut health, and I think the future of fitness and nutrition is going to depend on that research, and it's still very young. If we find out that these artificial sweeteners are creating problems within your gut health, I will be the first one to get in line and be like, hey, I was wrong. As it stands right now though, we have a bunch of research that has compared people taking artificial sweeteners versus those not, and fat gain. There's nothing to associate that taking these artificial sweeteners cause you to become fat. It's still a matter of like calories in, calories out. Now the quality of food is definitely important. The micronutrients are important, but you can't say if you have a packet or two of sweeteners or a can or two of a diet soda that it's going to make you fat, because there's no research to show that that's true. I mean, I just go by what science shows us, and then I know way too many people. You know, we get the pleasure of working out and spending time with some of the fittest people in the world who their diets are very, very healthy, and they satisfy that sweet tooth by drinking a diet soda or two.
Right.
And they look phenomenal. So how can I say that like this is gonna make you fat? Now, the exceptions to the rule with artificial sweeteners might be one, if drinking those sodas make you crave a whole bunch of other sugary foods. It's not that the soda is making you fat per se, it's the fact that like you are adjusting your palate that is making you crave. And that is a personal thing. A lot of people will act like that happens. I can have artificial sweeteners and it doesn't make me crave anything because I'm satisfied. Other people are not like that. So it's kind of annoying. So does the association of an artificial sweetener make you eat other things that maybe you don't want to. 2, and this does apply to me, some artificial sweeteners are very, very difficult on your stomach in terms of like gastrointestinal distress. And it can cause people to have bloating, it can cause people to have cramps, and it can affect your diet. So things like maltitol, sorbitol, xylitol, a lot of things that like say are like sucralose, these things that are like super sweet, I can't handle. They give me issues, so I am not anti-artificial sweetener, but those things I don't touch. So if I'm going to use an artificial sweetener, I do one of the plant-based ones, such as a stevia, or even some things I have like monk fruit in them. So not against them. No research that shows they halt like the monk fruit.
What the hell is monk fruit?
It's a sweetener. You just like are picturing like a monk who like gets fruit. I'm next level like that.
I just went like Chris Farley, Beverly Hills Ninja, monk fruit logo.
You lost me there a little bit. I have seen Beverly Hills Ninja, but you lost me. But yes.
Isn't he like a monk in that?
Oh, maybe he was.
Yeah.
Maybe he ate monk fruit.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll have to do some research. So overall, though, I don't see a reason to be against artificial sweeteners. I don't think you are either.
No, I mean, I definitely have had my fair share of stevia and
What's in that bottle over there?
I drink like 7 of these and several Diet Cokes in a day. I just think in general, a lot of it comes down to there's not a lot of science, like you said, there's not a lot of science out there. People are very quick to point and assume things.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's what sells in the media. That's what I read all day long when I'm looking up these articles that like, avoid this, avoid that, it's bad for you, this and that. But until I actually see some scientific proof, the benefit of me drinking that Diet Coke or this Powerade far outweighs any sort of perceived risk that has no credibility to it yet. Now, if something comes out and it's like 20 years later and after this extensive research, smoking's bad for you, and it's the same thing with these sweeteners, then I will be, just like you said, the first one off that bandwagon. I will not be drinking them. But until then, I mean...
You know smoking's bad for you, right?
I haven't seen that proof.
Yeah, it's out there.
Oh, okay.
It's out there.
Got it. No, but I'm saying like, I would imagine, and I don't know, I'm gonna go on a limb here, but in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it was kind of up in the air. It was, it takes a while for these studies to see the long-term effects. That until you actually get that proof, I'm not going to stop buying Powerade and Diet Coke.
Right, and the beauty of this is that there are some things that maybe you want to have more hesitation on just because we don't know one way or another.
Right.
It's like it's something brand new to the market and we're like, we don't know. Artificial sweeteners have been around for a long time.
Yeah.
We have a good amount of research that we can say pretty confidently this isn't a problem. Just like I remember it was, like Sweet and Low. The big thing back in the day was like Sweet and Low causes cancer.
Right.
There's not one study that shows that Sweet and Low causes cancer in humans. Not one. There are like literally 0. So, but I mean, these things you have like one rat study and then people like panic and it's like, last time I checked, it's good to build off. We always talk about this, like one research study should lead to another hypothesis that gets tested and tested and tested. But at some point, you have to go up the chain. We're not rats.
Right.
I'm not, at least.
It's the same that goes with drinking from the plastic water bottles. That all of a sudden everyone has these like metal water bottles and there's some study that comes out that a lot of times the poison's in the dose. And we talk about that all the time too, that if you're eating 37 packets of stevia a day, there might be some concern.
Yeah.
But when you limit it, as of right now, I don't see any problems with any of the sweeteners.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
that's it.
That wraps up another episode.
Our first episode ever with Mike, so that we don't have awful sound quality.
You guys can comment on how wonderful they are.
And it only took 793 comments complaining before we got them. Big ups to Jordan for making it happen. Thanks, camera guy.
Yeah, thanks. All right, guys, have a good week.
Bye, everyone.